Romany Dear, Grace, Turtle,
Can you hear me? Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to be here today, and also to all the wonderful folks who have shared and spoken before me today around radical accessibility, care, agency, sunflowers, cats, and transformative poems. It's almost the end of the day, so I appreciate that your spoons may be lower, or your heads and hearts may be fuller. Your concentrations may be foggier. Your bellies may be emptier, and your skins may be craving for the outside sunshine to touch them. So I would like to make an invitation, a genuine one, or actually maybe we could call it an agreement, a proposal, or un acuerdo, to invite yourselves to genuinely do what you need. Give yourselves a minute to check in and make any vital adjustments, however minor or macro. In spaces like these, whether museums, conferences, institutions, even incredible ones that are dedicated to addressing notions of radical accessibility, there is still a process of trying to unlearn constantly the many formalities that are rooted in how we perceive and imagine we have to exist in these spaces. That, I believe, are rooted in ideologies of perfection that come directly from white supremacy. So it's hard to remember that we do have permission to leave the room or take a pee, close your eyes, change position, cough, laugh, open that loud crisp packet that you've been trying to open quietly the whole of today, or stim with your shoelaces. So yeah, just do please take a moment to check in and listen to yourselves and what you need right now. Questions that we can percolate or think about today as we're in this space is, what do you and what do we need right now? What do we also need in order to meet those needs? So this is permission to be unruly, to spill out, to spread out, to check in or check out for the next 45 minutes. My name is Romany, and to begin or re-begin, because I've just talked a lot already, an image description of me is that I am a white person with long, dark, curly hair that has been badly and cheaply box-dyed and now has orange ends, like a three-tone wave of autumnal leaves. I have wonky, memorable, remarkable teeth. I am wearing an all-white suit that's giving like dentist, doctor, chef, not sure. Generally, I'm gonna inhabit like a slight awkwardness that mostly manifests when I'm speaking in public in restless gestures or laughing. My voice is deep, croaky, and made up of layers of accents and years of smoking that speak to my many multi-identities. Behind me is an invitation also, if you're not into the words that I'm going to be saying, for the next 40 minutes, you can also just tune into this video. The video, you will see two bodies in a space in Glasgow, Scotland, carrying and being carried with each other. Today I'm going to spill out words and offerings across the practices of art, access, care, pleasure, pain, and the magnificent complexity of what I call together mess. My words, practices, activisms are part of my life as much as my life is my practice, and the work that I do and desire to be paid for is bound to that. Intertwined entities that merge and mesh with each other, sometimes organizing themselves into definable containers, or that show up in ways that others, myself included, can give names to, like access worker, like pleasure seeker, like pain babe, like spiller. There are other times when these entities remain disjointed, liminal vessels, messy, undefinable, unboundaried overflows of all the feelings, words, actions, activisms, labors, rests, joys, struggles, and. I invite you to not worry about getting stuck on trying to identify or understand or name or know it all. Let's leave the windows open. There actually aren't any in here, it's a metaphor. Send unfinished text messages. Start books without ever finishing them, and make up terms that don't make sense. Today I speak from my own lived experiences and positionalities with spoonfuls of both critique and compassion, acknowledging that I inhabit and embody many different privileges. As a white person, along with the many other associated privileges that come with whiteness in a world that is infected and powered by and with deep structural and violent inequalities. Today I speak as someone who has lived with and continues to live with a chronic pain condition since age 10. I speak as somebody who lives, relates to mad time, sick time, and Crip time. I also speak from the position of someone who gets to pass through the world as a relatively appearing sane and able-bodied person. I also speak today from a position of political solidarity with Palestine and Palestinian people in the moment of current and ongoing genocide. I speak shyly, shakily, and also boldly. I speak with ignorance and curiosity. Actions also do speak louder than words, and yet, and also, and sometimes in the midst of this present moment when the very words of this world are being censored, vanished, invisibilized, we also have to become word activists, revolutionary in how we use them. And those of us, like me, who can sit here today in comfort, holding and carrying the many privileges that I do, I can also use spaces like this to practice saying, sounding, repeating them, disorientating them, and their histories to remain aquí y allá y presente. Words. I'm going to change seats, just switch it up. Words. Does it still work? Yeah, technology. Okay. Words, my best friends, my lovers, my addictions, and my enemies. They stick to the air and hold unsustainable weights, carrying associations that are sometimes the very things that may or could directly free us, allowing us to be seen, heard, felt, witnessed, acknowledged, visible, and yet also and sometimes but simultaneously, the very same words can be the very source and history of pain, harm, and exclusion. Misinterpreted, translated, twisted, reinvented, controlled, liberating, history-changing, chaotic, unruly in their nature, and simultaneously rigid, rational, binary concrete pillars that sometimes write and name everything we know or believe to know. I'm going to be using a lot of words, and some more words, and some more words, and likely I will provide exhausting lists of alternative words to the words and then some more words. Linguistic slipperiness of confusing tongues or spillings full of contradictions. Y múltiples caras that at times attach and hook themselves to authors and voices. Bodies and stories that have lived y luchado por muchos años antes y atrás que nosotros. Rippling and repeating, carried by mouths, I liked how that one sounded, and oceans. Winds and endless translations and alternative lenguajes. Word soup of words. Who has access to words? Who has access to language? To the spaces of higher education, academia, museums, and even those magic transformative worlds, words that move around in community spaces. Which words are radical? What are the words that you feel accessible? I did warn you that this may get exhausting, the words and the words and the words. So again, remember, I invited you and now I'm slightly more firmly commanding and or proposing that you do keep attending to your needs. Get comfortable. Take note of the surfaces that sustain you in this very moment. Take a minute to think about the things that made it possible for you to be here today and that keep you here at 4:15 when the sun's out. Think about who's here and think about who is also not here and why. Take a moment to appreciate the chair, the floor, the seat, and find that place of comfort. And or perhaps for those of you who feel comfortable in general in your day-to-day lives, then maybe I invite the opposite. Perhaps this is a more generous offering invitation for you. And by generous, I mean radical. Radical words. Find that place in your chair or on top of your beanbag where your body is just right at the edge. Find or feel that place, that limit, that border or boundary or place where you feel the chair just slightly leaning, giving, that place of anticipation just before falling, that place of precarity and of not quite knowing and of having sí o sí to trust. Stay there, remain in the crack or an edge, that in-between. What do you feel here? Is there anything else you need from here? Like more even floors, perhaps. Pavements without potholes. A hand to get you up. A gentle push back down. A heavy support to hold your chair just in the right place. A firm grip, a crane through your ceiling. A hug. A time extension, an email without urgency, time. Do you wish your pants were less tight right now? Do you need one of your shoes opened? Can you hear me okay? Can you see the captions clearly from where you are? Do you need an extra translation to the words that I'm using? Can you ask your neighbor? Do you need to change seats? Is the person you're sitting next to unfortunately just a bit too much for you today? Can you let them know with compassion? naming our needs, leaning in when we want to lean out, love over fear, gratitude for the incredible surfaces and supports, floor, cushion, sunglasses, ibuprofen, this water, the person next to you, the arm of your chair, your best friend who just texted to check if you're all right, support structures, contact, touch and touching, trios, surfaces, messy threes and triangles. This is my work. This is my passion place. This is my place of passion. The floor, the horizontal, the seat, the wall, the side of the bus station, my own elbow, your shoulder, these props and places and persons, nooks and crannies or temporary holdings where your body encounters with, where your body spoons with another, and you are just, for a wee moment, held, exactly as you desire to be. Temporary lodgings, sublets, those places in cajas, folds, edges, landings where your body meets with another, and another, and another, and you are temporarily sustained. Temporary architectures or temporary ableness, dependency and interdependency. This is actually what I wanted to talk about. And in this mist of words and mess, of mutual solidarity, of practices of togetherness, in the ways that we exist and coexist and survive and fall, and if I fall, will you catch me? Don't fall into the cracks, he said. I'm a crack dweller, I said. I'm a wildflower. We fall and lose, even for a millisecond, this perceived sense of stability, verticality, a place of discomfort that potentially, if we were allowed or paid better, we could spend more time in. A reminder that we can imagine otherwise, as in upside down, as in, hey, look behind you, as in check the back door, as in try walking backwards, as in no, forget walking, we are only sliding, as in crawling, as in carrying you and being carried. As in 24 hours a day on the horizontal plane, I am a deep sea diver. From the ground level up kind of politics, as in unlearning and undoing this supposed neutrality or verticality of ableism that is applied to all our bodies and to the ways that we navigate this thing that we are all experts at. It's called moving and being moved. Lawnmower humans, sensory overload, surgeries, metal and rubber openings, painfully lucid operations that vibrate down to my brain. Examinations, pain meets pain, and relief arrives in the words of X's song. I see A's beautiful face as she proudly repeats this gestural dance down to a teat the nostalgia for a scent of summer that takes me back to childhood with a lawn. I never lived in a house with a lawn, but television is a device for speculation. Foggy realities, imaginary friends as first experiments with relational affectations. The grass allergy, the swelling up of joints, the donut three-dimensional bumps on my skin, my shoes, they wouldn't fit, so they took theirs off too, and we both walked home in all the puddles. Swollen pain babes, wet and happy. The sounds and feels like the lawnmower, the beds that hold me, Thousands of surfaces, floors, bathrooms, arms, lack of arms, laps, where were you? Parks, walls, toilets, toilets, and toilets, you have held me when I cannot hold myself. International surface dating. I just keep falling and then falling some more. I'm horizontally hooked on those cold, hard surfaces. It's a one-way street. You're a giver and I'm a taker, but how can I give back to you? Should I have become an architect? Soft, squishy, permeable walls that let me forget who they are and where I begin, and as they enter my skin, muscles massaging my fascia and for providing that place of floating, trace making, stamping, and hard pressings of my body's weight into their surfaces. Held, shibari, the release of suspension. My limbs levitate in all the ways I had only imagined or hoped for. Temporary lodgings. Can I lean in a wee bit further? Can you hold me? It's taken me almost 36 years to know this body, to name and honor and call this place by its name, to embrace este cuerpo, that is part bed, floor, part toilet seat, and part reptile. Intense pressure memories left behind, folds of mine and your skin. How can we become more than each other's means? What does it mean to lean in and not out? What does it look and feel like to move towards each other? To ask instead of assume. What can we do together that we cannot do alone? Balance, compromise, reciprocity, soft submission, relaxation, letting go. Palms full of boulders and waves thrashing cliff edges, and yes, I spilt the coffee down me again. My perception is off, I can't reach my mouth. She fed me and I bathed her. They scooped me up from inside my legs, clasping their hands on my groin, fists clenched. They applied pressure to my coccyx, almost anus, but not quite. Relief in a wrestling lock. We fall asleep hooked. I want to draw that shape and make millions of fanzines for other chronic pain babes who suffer from this. Like, this is it. Holy fuck, I forgot about it. I forgot about it for some years, and I'm reminded in a distant future when my sick body encounters a thing called a warm hottie for the first time. A belt of all-encompassing heat wraps itself around my whole body, connecting my legs to my vulva, to my anus, my lower back to my intestines. Relief, fanzine number 2. I made it to the studio today. I got a residency and have been given access to a dance studio for 7 whole days, and they even pay me to be here. My access costs on top of that. I enter and lay down on the floor. I fall asleep for hours, dribble onto the shiny surfaces, mop it up, and then I make a dance about it. Day 2. I make mess with all my object friends, harnessing myself to buckets, mops, beanbags. We play together, carrying and being carried. G joins me, and finally we get to switch up our top-bottom energy, and I carry them. A and S arrive, and I welcome them into my world of trios. Breath, suspension, and gravity. We move like slugs on the floor. Between hip operations, sore backs, endo pain, and neurospiciness, we find each other. Gently touching without touching, gesturing, inviting, listening. A tenderness that I forgot could arrive so quickly when trust is present. Trust is built, temporary intimacy, a sturdy base that is equally risky and precarious in a sexy, exciting way, a way like, you got this, and we got you too. Like, hold me tight, but not that tight. Another and final translation of all the weird, potentially confusing words that I've just spilled out my mouth could be that my practice is deeply inspired and influenced by improvisation. Structures for supported and improvised states. My research is both physical, imaginative, and simultaneously restful. Located within what I call the impossibilities of connecting and a practice I've been developing called Constellations of Togetherness. My research is informed by companionship planting methods, specifically the Three Sisters, or la milpa, intersectional queer and Crip theory, and keeping company. I am focused and interested in the possibilities practiced within care work, disability justice, and integrated dance spaces to think about methods or proposals for ways and other ways that we can exist together, where we can simultaneously support and be supported. Like, I'll be the wall and you'll be the wall plug, and then we'll find the screw together. I am researching structures and methods that look to create, cultivate, and allow for symbiotic coexistence. Investigating trios, threesomes, and non-binary constellations of togethering that are driven by their potential as sustainable structures. To cultivate long-term lodgings, to dream further than sublets, scores for the body, movement, and dance-based practices. I believe that improvisation teaches us everything that we need to know about access, adaptability, coexistence, and interdependence without having to reject our own needs. It's a practice of being ready for the unpredictable, about time as non-linear, about stillness as an act of resistance, and about connecting as a mode of survival. It's about falling and catching and remaining humble and curious. It's about opening all the windows and doors and accepting that we don't have to strive for perfection. We're going to now smoothly and slowly transition into another moment for which I'd like to invite Grace Turtle to make themselves known and move a wee bit closer. I'll let you sit there.
Hello, everybody.
I'm gonna take this moment to just like sip water, because I just spoke a lot. Do the same if you want to.
Thank you, Romany. And thank you all who are still spending some time with us this afternoon. I know it's just delicious outside, and we all have that to look forward to.
Just before we begin, Grace, can you let people know what you look like, an image description?
I look like a cartoon character that's made out of plasticine called Gumby. I don't think that really explains what I look like, but that's how I feel. I'm wearing big boots, black pants. I have short, curly hair, and farmer shirt.
Thank you.
There you go.
We're going to enter into a kind of dialogue, conversation between ourselves. So again, it's another moment to just check in with yourselves or ask the person next to you. We're going to be probably talking for like 10 minutes, just if anyone's like, when does this end? Almost.
All right. So the reason I am here is because I am with Romany, a co-director of the new temporary masters at Hamburg called Monstrous Futurities. For those of you who don't know what that is, I'm just going to give you a brief introduction to give you some context of how this program works with and relates to some of the spillings and words that Romany has shared with us this afternoon. So Monstrous Futurities practices in unlearning, unmaking, and unworlding is the new temporary program that starts in September. This program works from intersectional perspectives in dialogue with post-human, queer, Crip theories and glitch, cyborg, black and trans feminisms. It seeks to engage with monstrous imaginaries, their subversive potentials and material and relational effects in the world through transdisciplinary practice. In the program, the Monstrous is an invitation and a reminder of the multiplicity of small-scale interventions and minor gestures emerging like wildflowers within the cracks of what is. Through these entangled encounters that we hope to have with monstrous futurities, we may transform our monsters with radical tenderness. So that is
Thank you.
a little bit about monstrous futurities. So to begin with, Romany,
Yes.
you talk a lot about words with a lot of words. One feature of Monstrous Futurity is that it dialogues with the ethics, aesthetics, and politics of transformation, which very much include the unraveling of the worlds of words. Can you, to begin this conversation, talk to us a little bit more about how you imagine words and their linguistic wanderings as you speak to and write about, and what role they play in monstrous futurities?
I can try. It's hard, right? Words and worlds, also hard to say. So I think partly what I've tried to speak to today, possibly and undoubtedly with many holes, gaps, and failures, but is, this kind of like constant, complex landscape that I believe we are in, where we are constantly using the words to explain and identify the very worlds, bodies, and experiences that we have, but the words themselves are also often, bind themselves to things that we also don't resonate with anymore. And recently, or I'm still doing an online course at the moment. Actually, I'm meant to be there right now, but I'm here with a group based in Puerto Rico called Loud Readers Lexicon. And they are, as part of this course that we're doing, we're making kind of like lots of inventories of other definitions, other possible words to the words that we keep using. So what would be another word for accessibility? And then what would be another word for that? And just trying to kind of also pull apart these like complex, unresolved vocabularies. And I think during Monstrous Futurities, which in itself is like, what are those two words together and what do they mean? It's going to be really important, both practices of citation, like there has been a lot of struggle and incredible work and labor done by people previously to arrive to the words that we use today. And simultaneously, part of that work during MF for us is going to be about kind of radically trying to rename things, right? So that could look like going and walking around Amsterdam and looking at all the wonderful wild flowers and weeds that grow in the cracks, and lots of them have been named by essentially the people who were exploring, by which I mean colonizing, and naming those plants after the colonizers, right? This is one example. So like, what is it to also think about those species and rename them? And also within the program, like with the students, the future students, whoever you are going to be, part of that will also look like creating shared vocabularies for the course. So what are the terms that the program is using? This also is going to help us with like processes of accountability, also responsibility, and also to co-create terminology. We have some terminology that we are offering in the course. For example, the spaces that are called weave, entangle, and mutate. But a big part of that, I think, is going to be, like also renaming those things and finding a shared vocabulary that looks like agreements, learning agreements, but that also looks like how we check in with each other as a group. What are the kinds of communication that we use between staff and students? To not just accept, like, this is a language that we all have, because sometimes it's not serving us.
So it's creating and recreating language, learning and unlearning language.
Yeah, like coding. I don't know anything about coding, but it's how I relate. Like, to, kind of uncode, recode, unlearn, relearn, undo.
The way you talk about, well, I don't know, when I listen to you and what I know of your work, which is very much comes from a place of improvisation and support structures. In what you would have seen in the video, there's just a lot of slow movement and support going on. I feel that the way you use language and your linguistic wanderings also speaks to the way you understand time and movement in your work. Which you describe as sick time, mad time, Crip time. When we made the course, when we made Monstrous Futurities, we also thought a lot about time, spiral time. Can you tell us a little bit more about how time plays into how Monstrous Futurities unfolds, or how you experience time in Monstrous Futurities?
I can't talk about how I experience time in Monstrous Futures because we didn't begin.
Because it's in the future.
But I can
anticipate. It's a part of time.
I can talk about spiral time and my understanding of what I called sick time, mad time, Crip time, which are terms that have been used, and I have been able to identify with those from the words of other wonderful humans. But I think part of that for us within the course there is to think about everything is a process, and we really will kind of imagine the course and the program as a cyclical learning, right? So it's like going to be trying to not produce tactics of urgency, scarcity of time. That's complex. That's complex because there are, of course, conditions when you study in an academic institution. There are timelines, right? Like, we are bound to these things. But I do really believe that there are ways that we can navigate those that can just make the journey feel like a little bit softer. And we're going to be kind of, really interested in reciprocal ways that we work with the students also to try to meet each other in different time zones and temporalities, to offer different ways to kind of engage with the course content, and also their kind of containers of learning. Like that again, I don't try to speak from any kind of like utopia. I don't believe in that. I believe in like the messy work of like what we're doing right now and how we're doing it together. And that sometimes just looks like asking, like, how much time do you need for this? And how much time do I need? And like, where do we meet each other? It's not going to be perfect. But I think, understanding time as non-linear as much as we can, understanding spiral time, that processes of knowledge are cyclical and they need to be okay with going backwards, or even not going backwards, just being okay with like, continuously attending to and moving. So I think, this is how I relate to that. Also, speculation is a huge part of the program. So imagining imagining future moments. But again, I think that how I understand that is very much bound to the present and this current landscape, because like we can only imagine otherwise also from where we are right now and from where we've come from and from what we know. So yeah, I think kind of answered, potentially not, but that's what I've got.
I think you kind of I think you answered
I
it.
think we have maybe one more, and then we
I will give one more question, and then maybe we have some more questions from the audience if there's still time.
Okay.
So the last question I have for you, which kind of comes back to why we are all here today, is to think about radical accessibility. And again, I think in your work, what I feel is very present is access and the way that you think about access. And so for me, that historically I haven't thought about access so much, is that there is a genealogy and there is kind of a lot of ways to understand access and radical accessibility. We've talked a lot about what radical accessibility means. So the last question is basically how you understand radical accessibility in terms of monstrous futurities.
Hard question, but I think, again, I don't think there's like any kind of manual or code of conduct for how we think about accessibility. I think accessibility is completely bound to time, sadly, to context, to situation, to positionality, to both individuality and collectivity. So like what relates to access in this moment right now, maybe for me and all of us, potentially is then out of date as soon as we all leave this room and something else occurs. So I think access is a constant question. Like we have to just keep asking and be okay to ask and be uncomfortable with the asking. Radical, again, big word, means many, many things. But for me, it's like, a little bit what I spoke about at the beginning. You know, when I said like we have to be word activists and we have to be a bit more revolutionary in these things, it's like, how do we show up for each other, and what does that genuinely look like? And I think in terms of monstrous futurities, or in terms of a program, again, that will look like some very practical tools that we will try to implement from day one with the students and with the staff about processes of kind of comfort, uncomfort, and responsibility also, right? For how are we responsible for ourselves and each other, and this kind of like constant moving towards, but again, being okay to move backwards, being okay to move from the ground up. Like I think it's just a constant questioning, it's a constant unlearning. And like a beginning, right? Access now in particular contexts, like is being attended to and not only considered as an afterthought, but it still often is. And through my own lived experience of working as an access and support worker from the age of 12, formally and informally, and also being someone that has required and still requires access, like we all do in different ways. And I think, again, it's just about like getting better at naming those needs and also being okay that they're not always going to be met. Like, I don't think it's about that, but that's what I could say.
Thank you.
Could you do the final slide? So, as you can tell, I didn't go to design school, but if any of you want to scan this QR code, it's just a document I made because I needed a lot more time today. Like, I probably needed 5 hours to say all the things I wanted to say. But this document just holds some fragments, resources, offerings, words that have inspired the words that I have spoken today. Also, the desire there being to cite and acknowledge, understanding citation as a deeply feminist, trans-feminist practice, to cite, name, remember, and re-remember the labor and love that has existed, to give us the words that shape and name the world as we know it. My other desire is that education is free, but that we also can make knowledge processes more and more accessible, and to disseminate them between ourselves. So I just want to say thank you to all the wonderful people that, have shaped and weaved the language together in the magical ways that they have. And to everybody today who's spoken and for the invitation, and especially thank you to you, Judith, for this invitation. Thank you to Grace. And humble and grateful and happy that that's over, because I was really nervous. So thank you, everyone.
Maybe we probably should wrap up in a few minutes, but maybe there is a few questions. Yeah.
I have a question for Romany. You're talking about working on words and finding new definitions or new words for them. Could you give us an example of something that's really stuck with you?
Ooh, I'm like, I need to look at my phone. I think in this course that I was doing, or also in another course that I did last year with a wonderful writer, philosopher, dancer called Mari Bardet and Val Flores, who are based in Argentina, we also did what they called in Spanish desdefiniciones, so like a non-definition. So you had to, I don't know, for example, the word spilling, right? And then find another way to say that word, but I actually can't think of any great examples. But I have pages and pages in a document of all of these words that have been collectively generated through both of these courses that I've been in, and it's another practice that now we are beginning with Monstrous Futurities. So again, with the word monstrous. For the open day at Sandberg recently, we had lists of other possibilities for the word monstrous, and we asked everybody that came into the space to also leave theirs. I'm sorry, I'm not giving a great example, but I can if you email me.
I think
Sure.
maybe,
Can you remember?
I know the question's not for me, but if you think, as a secondary reading of Romany's work, I think of it in a way that is similar to how Jose Munoz talks about disidentification and the remixing or recoding of meaning. So subverting the language or the use of language from the word itself. So maybe even the word doesn't change, but how you interpret the word changes. So it's how you change how it's signified, or also recoded. I think some of the texts that we write are very difficult to read because they're full of slashes and, what are these things? Inverted commas?
Brackets.
So when we think of, if you think of a popular term right now is regenerative futures or regenerative ecologies, regeneration. And how we typically understand regenerative ecologies or futures or this, or transformation or transition it comes loaded with a very specific meaning. So if you say re/generation, then it gives potential for how you recode the meaning of regeneration or recode the meaning of transformation or transition from a different genealogy. So that's how I think of it.
We didn't give an example, but
no.
I will. At dinner, okay.
Anybody else? We go outside and play in the sun. Sun wins, it's fair.